Morning, guys. It's Rumano here from Bonsai with Rumano. Just want to welcome you guys to this weekly stream. So today we'll be chatting with Willem Pretorius, and then we'll be just talking about the influence that he has in the industry, especially with being one of the curators at the Bonsai collection in Stellenbosch. And then I'll just play a quick intro video, and I'll do an interview for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then I'll move into my bonsai demo. So let's just watch the video quickly. Morning, Willem. How are you?
Hello, Romano. Good to see you.
Yes. So I'd just like to discuss the World Bonsai Day, and then I just want to talk a bit about the heritage collection, where it's moved to, and then just how it's going to influence the development of the trees, where it is currently, and who's looking at it. So I just want to find out what your input is and how you looking at Japan, or not Japan Day, but World Bonsai Day. Sorry, I just got the two dates confused there.
Yes, so I think it's a wonderful initiative started by Subaru Katu um, to develop friendships around bonsai. And I think he started it in 2010.
Yes.
And I was privileged to visit his garden in Japan on a tour just after he died. And his widow um, opened up the garden for bonsai enthusiasts from across the world. And it's a fantastic monument for someone's love of trees and building great friendships around small trees. And since then, every year we've commemorated this. And it's a great day to remember a visionary of bonsai who saw that it was not just about small artistic trees, but about friendship.
Yes.
So it's been celebrated in South Africa for a long time now. And now, with this COVID virus, it's unfortunate that we can't get together and have coffee, discuss trees, and just have a wonderful time. So today, across the world, lovers of bonsai will think of Katu and his wonderful legacy. Um, and I wish we could have more days like this.
Yes. Okay, so you mentioned that it's the day's been celebrated all around the world. When I spoke to you earlier, you mentioned that one of your trees has also been added onto a Facebook page of some of organization that's actually hosting a day on the internet. Can you just explain to us a bit more about that?
Yes, the California Bonsai Society in America, they decided to, as a celebration of bonsai across the world on this special day, asked people to from different countries to post their trees, and so anyone could post. And I thought to post it on the South African Bonsai Association uh, Facebook page and invite people from our country to post. And then when I saw it was a bit slow, I thought, let me send in one of my own trees, um, a comifera, which I thought would be not well known across the world, but it's a lovely South African tree.
Yes.
And lo and behold, it was immediately posted, and can't believe how many likes I had.
Wow.
So the special thing about this is people, normally people just like something or someone says, I hate it or whatever.
Yes.
How many people I've met across the world, bonsai friends, posted there, not just about the tree, but to say, hello, Willem, how are you guys in South Africa?
Wow.
And I think that symbolizes the value of this day.
Okay. Yes. And then you mentioned that there was a forest planted by the World Bonsai Friendship Federation. I think it was in 2015. Can you just tell us a bit more about that tree and how that project came about?
So in 2015, we had the Africa Bonsai Convention, the fourth one, and it was held in Stellenbosch. And it was the first time that the World Bonsai Friendship Federation, their board, met in Africa, specifically in South Africa, Stellenbosch. And we thought of how we could make this really special. And the idea came about that we would plant a friendship forest.
Yes.
And we asked all the directors of the WBFF, as well as the mayor of Stellenbosch, who's just passed away, Conrad Sidego, to plant a tree in a friendship forest. And that is now hosted in the South African Bonsai Heritage Collection in the Botanical Garden.
Yes.
And I must say it's developing very nicely. And it's one of those projects that you hope in 100 years' time will symbolize what wonderful bonsai friends we have across the world.
Okay. You mentioned the South African Heritage Bonsai Collection. So there was an article posted that commemorated the your appointment to the vice president of African Bonsai Association, and they briefly mentioned about the heritage collection being moved. Can you just tell us a bit more about that?
So, Romano, maybe if I can just go back slightly,
Okay, cool. All good.
the photo you see there now is after the collection was moved to the beautiful wine farm Babylon Storen outside Stellenbosch. And Ernst van Jaarsveld on the left there, he used to be the curator at Kirstenbosch Botanical Gardens. And one of the very knowledgeable helpers at Babylon Storen, Nico, is standing there just after we unloaded the collection there. And I'll get into the care of that just now. But just to say, it was quite a crisis when we suddenly had this lockdown. And one of the first places who informed us that they would be locked down was the Botanical Garden in Stellenbosch. And they also said that because of the restrictions,
Yes.
there could be no guarantees that the trees would be looked after or watered. And it's quite a crisis, because this is the largest and oldest bonsai public heritage collection in Africa.
Wow.
And some of the first documented bonsai in Africa are hosted there. There are pines from Becky Lucas, the mother of bonsai in South Africa,
Yes.
that date from 1940. So can you imagine this collection, invaluable collection,
Sure. Sure.
a cultural jewel going without water indefinitely. We didn't know then how long the lockdown would last.
Yes.
So it was quite a crisis. And the curator um, asked a lot of bonsai enthusiasts if they were prepared to host, say, 4 of the historical trees
Yes.
each and look after them during lockdown. And I just thought it was totally impractical.
Yes.
And because it was on such short notice to get, remember, we're talking about 160 plus trees.
Wow.
And so, to get how many times four people going to, 4 trees going into how many people?
That's
I
about
can't do
40,
the sums.
40 plus people, yeah.
And they would have about one day to come from different parts in the Western Cape to pick up the trees. So logistically, it was a nightmare. And also, you wouldn't have a database of how experienced those people were.
Yes.
They didn't know the history of the trees,
Yes.
and different species have different care.
Yes.
So luckily, I was on my way to the Northern Cape with Ernst van Jaarsveld to go rock hunting. And so I phoned him and I said, Ernst, on the way back, we will be stopped in some roadblock and we'd be jailed. So why don't we move the bonsai and divert the truck to the botanical garden? And he said, yes, of course, fantastic. So because he's also a bonsai lover and he's got
Okay.
beautiful bonsai. And so I just contacted the curator and I said, we've got a plan. And another nursery, um, Stephen LaRue's Stone Lantern Nursery, also offered that we could host the collection there.
Yes.
So next day, truck at the botanical garden, 4 of us, we loaded all the bonsai and took them to Babylon Sturen, where they're now hosted in the Clivia House.
Okay.
And they watered by professional people. And I'm quite happy that they will survive this terrible time.
Okay. No, that sounds great. I just wanted to find out quickly, so if any tree requires repotting or any other specific um, needs, are they equipped to handle that? Have they stocked up on soils, for instance, if it needs repotting? Because it looks like this lockdown is going to be for quite a few more months. So what's the long-term plan for hosting the trees where they are now?
Yes, so luckily we most of the species will not need repotting before springtime.
Okay.
So we've got quite a few months, and a lot of them have been repotted recently.
Okay.
So the repotting is not a big issue.
Okay.
Watering, it's one of those things where you think, how lucky can we be? In January, we had a big bonsai exhibition at Babylon Store,
Okay.
where we had about 80 trees, and I gave the personnel there a course on how to water and care for bonsai. So this was a God sent uh, happening.
Yes. Okay. Wow. So
So
everything
those
just fell
same
into
people
place.
now, yes, those same people were these, and Ernst van Jaarsveld is really a cultural jewel. He knows more about trees than most people, and he goes in to check on everything. So some of the trees will grow and will not be pruned now, but I'm not worried that they will lose their shape or go completely wild. And sometimes, I think it's like an athlete. Um, Sometimes they need to rest. And I think giving the bonsai a rest from current, often being pruned is also a good thing. And hopefully, um, I decided it's an old concept that bonsai people across the world know. In China, it's called Gonshi,
Okay.
um, the love of rocks. Artistic.
Hey guys, Romani here again. Sorry about that. Sorry, we just had Willem's audio. It just cut out a few times. So I do apologize for that. Obviously, that's the one problem with not being able to have somebody within the studio. Yeah, and I just tried my best to kind of, there's much different internet points in the studio available. So I had stuff split up on different things. But don't let that spoil the fun. So today I'm just going to discuss or this tree that I have over here. So I'll be moving over to this tree shortly, and then I'll just discuss with you how I'll be moving the tree. I'll also be just restyling the tree. It's the same tree that we did last week. It's just a bit bigger tree, and then also it has a bit more foliage on it, so there's a lot more work on this tree. So I'll dive right into it. So I just need to move over from this side to the other side. So let me just take off all the other cables and stuff. So yeah, let's get straight into that. Let me just angle this camera a bit better here, and then I'll move over. So yeah, as you can see, I have another tree here that we will be working on today. So there's a lot of thought that actually went into this process today. So the main thing with this tree was I just needed to decide if I was willing to work with this long, let me just do it like that. So this long branch over here. So this trunk here goes straight up, and there's no growth on this side. So trying to bend branches from this side of that side would just be difficult. So I thought that I would just try and remove this part of the tree, so this entire top part. So that would shorten the tree. And then the other idea that I had was to move this part of the foliage over to the other side over here. So the tree is going to be a bit, I think that should be fine. Yeah, so that's not too much of a headache. So hopefully after I'm done styling this tree, it will look a lot better than it does now, because yeah, working on the tree will just increase the value of the tree a bit more. And also there's a lot of weird things that goes on here. So I styled this tree during a... So when styling these type of trees, it's also nice to make some gins, because these trees naturally have gins on them. So before you do anything else, it's always a good idea to work on the gins themselves, because with the gins, if your gin is done, you can work with the rest around that, so it makes it a bit easier. And what I'm doing now is I'm actually using this scalpel just to cut off some of the bark, the bottom of the tree, go off the bark with pliers or with any other. They tend to just cut straight down, or you can pull them down into the living that tree. So especially here, you don't want that, because there's one small part of this tree that I'm actually willing to keep alive here. So I just want to remove this over here. Let me take this apart. I'm just squashing the branch a bit so that it's easier to pull it apart. Actually, if you use just a knife to pull it down. So let's see if I can just get this down. Just going to pull this off. There we go. You roll it down, pull it off, and then it stops there. Just get that off. Okay. So there. Get that part off. Just turning off it and pulling it down. So it's just always easy to pull it off once you squash the branch, because then you loosen up the fibers and makes it so much easier to pull down on the branch. So I'm using this cutters. The reason for that is it's easy for me to cut into the bark and then pull it down from there. You can use some of your other tools, but like your octave cutters, but for me they're just uncomfortable because the angle at which they grab hold of the bark is awkward, especially in this type of situations. When you're cutting a tree, they're pretty fine. There's no issues there. But when you're removing some of the fibers, they tend to be uncomfortable. So I just use normal wire cutters, and it does exactly the same job. So there we go. Just let's remove this part over here. That's it. And there's just one that I just need to remove over here. There we go. That should be done. Let me just remove some of these fibers. So normally what you would do now is use a blowtorch just to burn off the pieces of fiber that's stuck on the sides, but for me that's something that I'm interested in now. For me it's more just getting the tree done. That would just, if you leave bits of fiber also, it just allows the tree to look a bit more natural as it dies off, or as it not dies, deadwood dries. So there you can see I've removed this part over here. So I'll just move this. So I'll start off with this branch over here, as this is going to be my primary, secondary branch over here. So normally you won't cross trunks, because this trunk is going up this way and this one is leaning over this side. So it's a bit of a conflict, but what I'll do is I'll just move it across so that it sits there and it looks a bit more, looks better. So let's go and do that one first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a thinner piece of wire than is required. The reason for that is I'll apply 2 pieces of wire, and as soon as I get to this part over here, the wires will split and they will be anchored from there already. That just makes the wire a bit stronger, and if you anchor it at a great place, it just prevents the branch from seesawing. So what happens is if you anchor it here and you bend this branch, this one will move. So by anchoring it from there and moving it all the way across, it's easier to anchor this and that at a more stable point. So let's do that. Okay, so measure off. It's going to be about that long. I'm going to do it twice. I'm just going to bend it together and move this over. Into the ground and anchor it, and I'm going to be moving this branch this way, so it would make sense for me to apply the clockwise. So I'll start the back over here, wire it across. Okay. Then I'm going to bring it over the top, because I'm going to have to bring it around the bottom. Okay. Take it over. Okay, let's go. as tightly as possible. Okay, so I'm almost at the point where it's going to split. So from here, I just apply the one to the one side of the branch. So I move this over this way and apply it to this branch. Here we go. And then we apply the other one to this side. So I'm going to try and get it as far as possible up this trunk. There we go. So that it goes at least once around that part. And now I'm just going to apply wire to that one over there, and this split is over here as well. So I'm just measuring out the wire. It's important to measure out your wire and leave yourself a bit more than you actually need. That just gives you a bit more so that. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do this. So this one is easy. We can apply it from here. So there we go. Wrap this around here. Just apply it over here. There we go. Ouch. Yeah, so be careful when working with these trees. The younger foliage tends to just stab into your fingers. Go this way around. Here we go. Apply it to this one. There we go. As far up as possible. I'm just going to stop it here. Move this there. Okay, I'm just going to see if I don't have a pre-cut wire that I can just reuse. This one's going to work fine over here. Okay, so let's apply this one to this side over here. Okay, cool. Let's do this. Okay. Here we go, that one's done. So I'm going to move over to this two smaller over here. I'll turn the tree now so that you can actually see. So I've wired all of these branches over here. So I'm just going to do this one over here. Here we go. There we go. Yeah, so this is all done. Then I'm going to start applying wire to those two trunks over there. So I'm not going to wire this trunk because trying to move something like this is going to be impossible. So I'm going to use the trunk just as it is. I'm only going to be adding in wire for this branch and that branch over there. Because it doesn't make sense to try and bend something that width, especially if it has movement. It's not too straight. I'll probably change the angle of that the tree when I repot it. But for this, some of them has a lot more horticultural experience than others, and they tend to have tree more vigorously growing. So if you have all of the necessary skills, like you have good and you actually have a lot of artistic techniques, you can make a great bonsai artist, because then you have everything. You can work within the limits of the tree, but also you can make sure that the tree is cared of before and after you style the tree. And as Willem even mentioned now earlier, is having knowledge of different species makes a huge difference in the caring of your trees. So it's important to have a bit of knowledge of work with. And obviously, once this is something that I love. I love styling trees. I like working on new trees. So I probably have, I would say 60% of the trees in my bonsai garden are trees that are development and that I'm trying new things with. So yeah, there's quite a lot of experiments in my bonsai enclosure. So some of them I'm just fine tuning, and some of them I'm really pushing the boundaries to see how far I can take my skills. So I'm just going to try and wire this branch and this branch with the same wire. It will just make it easier when anchoring it, because there's not a lot of space in between. And also, I don't want to put any wire on this trunk over here. If you look at it like that, the tree looks a bit empty. So I'll cover all that up now and into place, and then you'll see exactly how this will work out. Let me just measure this. So I'm going to use double. Okay, so let's do that and then fold it. Okay, so as you see, I'm just bending the wire and then just measuring out twice the length that I'm going to use, because I'm going to apply twice as much wire. It just helps because if you apply a piece of wire like this, with this thickness to this branch over here, it's almost just as thick as the branch. And if you turn it around there once, you could snap the branch off clean. So it's better using a thinner gauge wire and use two of them, and then you can just easily bend it. But when you're wrapping it around, make sure that the two are exactly next to each other the whole way. Don't let them cross, because when they cross, the one side cuts in deeper than the other side, and that would leave ugly scars free. So just make sure that you actually bend those in there. So let's go over here and apply. So this wire needs to go. Okay, so I'm going to try and wrap it from here. So I just saw when I take it around the inside, it's too close to this new branches that's coming out on the side over here. As that thickens up, it will be difficult to get the wire out. So it's also important that you plan where you're going to wrap your wire around, because obviously you don't want the wire to cut in, and that makes it difficult to. Also, if the spaces are too tight, sometimes you have to remove some of the bark to get to the wire. So ideally, you're not actually go into tight spaces with your wire. So here I'll have to go over, and this one goes. Yes, and you also just need to make sure that the wires don't cross, because if they cross, they're going to ring bark the branch, and that's just going to cause damage to the tree. So that's this one. That's that one. Do that once, and then I'm going to remove this and apply a smaller wire. I can continue with the bigger wire, but it's going to damage the tree. I'd rather remove that one and apply a thinner gauge wire there. Just go around this over here. So here exactly the same. Make sure that the two wires run parallel to each other and they don't cross. So here we go, almost done. With this one, there we go. So here once again we split the wires. One goes to this branch over here, and the other one goes to the other branch on the other side. Here we go. Okay. I'm just going to wire this branch out over here. Sure. So as you can see, these branches are quite tough. So let's do that. Okay, so let's do this one. So there's quite a few wires running parallel to each other around the base of this trunk now, but that's fine. It doesn't, but it won't damage the tree's bark, so that's fine. It's not an issue. Okay, so now I'm just going to run a wire to these smaller branches. Let's do that. And just be careful when you're wrapping these branches. Wrap the branch around the wire, because that sometimes happens. With this, I'll separate that from the normal stream, and I'll just add that in to the channel separately, so that you can look at that, and then I'll add in a live stream so you can actually watch the whole stream. So that I'll do later today. I just need, as soon as I'm done with this, so then you guys can actually watch that on your own time, instead of having to go back now, watch that and then come back forward again. So yeah, I'll post that in there, and I'll also add a link in on my website, so that you can go in there and access it from there. I'll load it on the resources page. So I'll add the whole live stream in there, and then I'll just split the interview for those of you that's just interested in the interview, just to make things a lot easier. Okay, so now I will just start placing these branches. So this is going to be my first branch over here. Just want to angle that out a bit more, flatten up these pads over here, just to get it nice and tight. It's nice and tight like that. So there's not a lot of things to do on this. We just need to trim back a bit on this. Just cut off some of the edges. Here we go. That's it. That's it for that one. This branch is in place, and there you can see now this is where this branch is going to be. And then I'm going to try and angle this entire trunk this way. So I might use a guy wire, because I see that this is not thick enough to hold that in place. So what I'll do is I'll get a piece of wire in here, and then there's a dead branch over here, so I'll just pull it towards this branch, and I just want to keep this in place, get it around there, and then I'll use the pliers to tie it down. Just want to make sure that I have enough wire to grab onto. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, as I'm pulling on this one, I'm just going to twist and turn, just to bring the branch closer. So there we go, twist and turn. And then I'm also just listening to hear if there's any cracks in the branches. You don't want the branch to snap off clean. But these junipers are quite easy to maneuver, so hopefully they don't snap off completely. Okay. Just cut off this excess wire. Just pull it a bit closer. Okay, let's bring this over. Bring that a bit more. Okay, so that wire over there, we just need to apply another one, because that doesn't seem to be thick enough to hold that in place. So I just don't have all the right sizes of wire, as they it's been locked down. It's not easy moving around, and it makes it a bit difficult. I'll just add in another guy wire over here and pull on this piece of wire over here. Let me just bend that over so I can get a place to grip. going to pull it slightly up. Add it in there. I'm going to pull it towards this side. So if you have thick enough wire, obviously you can use the wire to do that. I don't have the right gauge wire now, so I'm using guy wire to pull it closer to the trunk, which works as well, but it's not as effective as using the right thickness of wire, because with a wire what actually happens is if you have thick enough wire and the wire keeps the tree in place, it helps so what happens is the trunk swells, the branch swells up, and the wire cuts into the bark, and also when it cracks, it heals over that cracks. So with this, when you're using guy wire, the effect is a bit less, because now you're pulling the wire, and there is wire on it, but it doesn't have enough staying power. So it might come loose, or it might just not stay as quickly as it would with the right thickness of wire being applied. So so it's not always a good idea to just use guy wire. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. As soon as I say you give it like a year, or it depends on how quickly your tree is growing, and you remove that guy wire, and the tree just shoots out back to where it was. So the best thing is to use the right thickness of wire. That just makes your work so much easier, and also it adds less stress to the tree, because you are using the right amount of wire, and also it just stays in place a lot better, because then you're not fighting with the tree. Just bend that down and that in place. Okay, so that one's there. So now already you can see that I have some branches over there covering that area over there, and then I have this to the back, adding in, just bending it a bit more to get a bit more movement in the trunk, in the branch, instead of just having that flat piece coming out. And then I'm just going to push this back into the side over here. Let's bend it this way first, and then just have a bit of there we go. Just add in as much movement as possible to this branch, as I'm trying to get the tree as full as possible. Okay, bend this down. Here we go. Just angle that down. See this one over here. Add that. Here we go. Try and get this down to this angle over here, because there's a dead part there. There's no branches in here. So let me get that in there. And I'm going to try and get the foliage as compact as possible in this area, just like that. And then once this takes, I'll just start removing some of this growth on here. Just get this over here. Just get some movement in here to shorten up this branch over here. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to take this one down, so that it actually fits in there. And then I'm going to bend it back up so that the ends move over this way. Just get that in place. So there we go. I might just move this over a bit more to the back. Let's get it into the tree. Let's move it a bit more that way. So get some movement in this tree. So obviously I have this big movement over there. And try and bring that down as well. There we go. Okay, this a bit more closer. Just add this in here. I could actually bring this down a bit more because it's almost as high as the apex. And you just want your eye to be drawn to the one part of the tree. There we go. Okay, so this is covering up the trunk over here. So I might just move it slightly back so you can actually see the movement in the trunk, and then this branch has to actually move a bit more that way. Let me just do that. Bring that one out a bit more. Move these in. There we go. Okay, and that opens up the trunk a bit more. Okay, take that down. Okay, so just get this flat. And then I'm just going to trim the tree ever so slightly. There's not a lot of, just take up some of the longer ends just to push the growth back. As mentioned, this is not perfect time for trimming back too much on the tree. We're going into our, it's our autumn season. Winter's coming up next, so yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on pruning because obviously any growth is just going to die back in winter. So hopefully that just, there we go. Yeah, so there you have it. So this is the first step for this tree. So I also, as this tree progresses, I'll just add in a bit more of the tree's development. But as you can see, there's the tree. I just want to switch over to the other camera quickly so you can see it from that angle. So now you can see the tree from this angle. Just want to turn it around so you can actually see the, there you go. The tree is a bit more compact. It used to come all the way up to there, and now it comes down, so it went up. But now it's shortened, and there's a bit more detail in the tree. And as you can see, it doesn't take a lot of time. Although, when it comes to planning the tree, so let me just do this. Okay, guys. So yeah, so that's the demo. So as you can see, it looks easy, and there's quite a few stuff that you can do with your tree. So it's easy enough to just style that tree. There's not a lot that goes into there. Sorry, I just see that I have a question. I'm just going to respond to that question quickly. Sorry, let me just demo wide chat. Okay, so Eric, that tree, it is a juniper. No, it's a procumbens. Here you go. So it's a juniper procumbens nana. It's quite a nice tree. Easy to style. There's not a lot of work to do on those trees. They bend easily, and they don't need a lot of maintenance. So they're very easy, and they grow everywhere. Some of them actually grow quicker than you think. If they get just the right amount of foliage. So yeah, that was everything for today. If you have any feedback, please post it on the chat, or you can just click on the link below, or scan the QR code and send me your feedback. There is also a feedback link in the bottom. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody that's been supporting me for the past 4 weeks. I know it's been a rocky road, and I'm trying to iron out all the wrinkles. I also want to thank my wife and my daughter for all the support that they're giving me. They helped me set up everything. They helped me remove the weeds from the trees before I start styling them. My daughter, I think an hour before we started today, she started removing all the weeds. My wife made me breakfast because obviously when you're preparing for a live stream, your mind's just focused on that. And then I also just want to thank Mark Christians from Native. So he borrowed me one of his microphones to use during my demo. Thank you very much for that. Because obviously earlier there was a lot of complaints. People said that there's a lot of echo in the room. So I tried sorting that out. I did see that the stream cut out again today. I'll try and up my game every week. So yeah, so I'll try and see and figure out how I can get my internet sorted out. Because obviously now being in lockdown, it's difficult to sort that out. That's the main thing that's causing issues now. But I am recording the video. So what I'll do is I'll remove the interview from the demo. So if you guys want to look at just the interview with Willem, gave some great insights. Such a great guy. Sure, it's very, very nice to work with him and talk with him and interview him. And then I also just wanted to thank myself because my company, obviously I'm head of a technical company, so I use some of the equipment that I normally use to hire out for events to live stream. So thank you very much for watching, and I do hope that you guys enjoyed the stream. Any feedback is appreciated. You guys know what to do if you want to know more about me, want to stay in touch with what we're doing. Please press that little bell at the bottom so you can get all the notifications. Subscribe. We're at 81 followers today. Thank you for all the guys that started following me even though I didn't post as regularly. But from now on, I promise that I will try and keep it as interactive as possible, and I'll try and do a demo, a stream. So I'm just running out of trees now, but I'll try and see where I can find a bit more trees, and I'll iron out all the wrinkles as mentioned. So thank you very much for all your support, and hope to see you again next week. That's all for this week. Cheers.